talk about
Have you ever noticed that people are their most productive right before a big vacation? Well, that's when the to-do list is brought out. Major projects at work that need to be completed, the mail that needs to be put on hold, decisions on what to pack, and so on. And as that trip gets closer, that list might shift and reprioritize so that the most energy and attention could be focused on the most urgent and important of tasks. Well, that's just how most of us operate. The more aware we are of our limits and our deadlines, the bigger the urge to be productive, to focus on what matters most to us so that we aren't left with any regrets. As a musician, I'm often faced with a similar dilemma. So when writing a song or an album, it's easy to get carried away with adding new instruments, notes, harmonies, and ideas. But it's a best practice to strip away the inessential, to allow the song to breathe so that the main melody can flourish and so that you don't just end up with a cacophony of sound. In addition to working with a limited amount of time, or the length of a song that is, there's only a select number of notes that we can choose from. And there's also the issue of frequency bandwidth, or the ability of the human ear to distinguish sounds. You see, we're surrounded by limits and deadlines, whether we're conscious of them or not, from the number of minutes in an hour to the number of characters that Twitter allow you to post. And of course, there's the unknowable length of our own lives. So why do we live our lives as if it were being measured by a stopwatch, a race to see who gets the most toys? What if we instead lived our lives as if it were being measured by a countdown? You see, limits unlock our creativity. They create a sense of urgency. They allow us to be a little bit more productive. And while we don't know when our lives will end, we do know that one day they will. So one can definitely say that there's going to be a limited number of breaths that you will take, of songs that you'll be able to enjoy, but perhaps most importantly, of words that you'll be able to share with others. Putting it another way, your life has a word count limit. So how will you use it? Our words have such power. I mean, what would the Star-Spangled Banner be without its words? Technically, it would be the theme song of an 18th century gentleman's club of amateur musicians in London. What would any major religion be without its sacred text? It's the words that embody the values. They provide meaning and direction. Well, the words that you choose in your life should do the same. They shouldn't be wasted. Have you ever known someone who spent money frivolously as if it were limitless? It's kind of annoying, isn't it? Or someone to waste their time. Maybe you were once that student that kind of dawdled in that last semester because finals were a little bit further than they actually were. And if you ever want to see endless examples of people who don't really value their time, their money, or even their words, just look on the comments section of YouTube or any major news site. You'll find plenty there. If we want to change our world, we need to begin by changing our words and how we use them. You know, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, is a lie that we tell ourselves so often you'd swear that it was true. But if you look at every case of bullying, it is neither the sticks nor the stones that drive countless young adults to suicide each year. It's the words, either an abundance of hateful ones or severe lack of loving ones from the community that's supposed to care about them. A few years ago, I was asked to write a piece for a site called Inspire Me Today. They gave me a limited word count, 500 words, and a very simple prompt, which I kept going over because everything I wanted to say just couldn't fit within their parameters. But then it hit me. What I really needed to do was measure the weight of each word. And that's when I got the inspiration for this, which I'd like to share with you today. If I had 500 words to inspire, this is the important wisdom I'd share with others. Make every word count. I once heard that language is the primary moral choice in our lives. The words that we choose can build communities, inspire others, and reunite loved ones. They can be a catalyst for change. However, our words also have the power to destroy and to divide. Words can start a war. They can reduce a lifelong relationship to a collection of memories. They can end a life. If there's anything in life worthy of our consideration, it should be the way that we use our words. Our words have such meaning and importance, so they shouldn't be wasted at all. You know, if you think about it, in nearly every creation story, life begins with words. And in every civilization, it has been the storytellers, the oracles, the masters of language that have ruled. It's often said to live every day as if it were your last. Well, the words that you use should be considered with equal weight. If your life was to be judged only by your words, how would you be remembered? Would your good intentions be overshadowed by negativity, gossip, sarcasm, and bitterness? Or would you be remembered as loving, inspirational, full of hope, and treasured by the community around you? So let's reject cynicism as the primary vehicle for change in our world today. If you only had a limited number of words, what would you say? If you were only going to be remembered by your final words, what would you say? Say it. Beginning right now, make every word count. Thank you.